once you have the housing removed from the brush cutter or the tool, you're going to start by removing the spring clip. You can do this by using a pick or a flathead scrunch. You can set that aside. I'm also going to remove the pawl for the starter right here. You can remember which side you take it out of, but at the end of the day, you're just going to put it back in whichever side it turns more smoothly in. Since this is rough, I'm going to want to put it back in this one when I'm done. Once I have that removed, I'm going to remove the E-clip. There won't be an E-clip on most of the brush cutters or the hedge trimmers, but there will be a spring clip on all of them. But the procedure for replacing them is the same. There's also a washer that I will want to remove and remember to replace. Now that I've got those removed, the spool can come out freely. I'm going to leave that down and I'm going to remove the entire thing, keeping it together. If I do remove it, this spline will match up and go over that way so that I make sure that the spring is seated properly. Now that I'm replacing the broken pull cord, I'm going to remove this knot. There's a divider here so that one side has a slot for the rope and the other side is where you shove the knot to keep it from grabbing on the outside of the housing. Now I can remove it and replace it with a new cord. I'm probably gonna insert a video of me showing how to tie a double fisherman's knot, because it's pretty important that you tie the right size knot when you are replacing the cord here, because if you tie one too small, it will pop out, especially out of the handle. And so the trainer's gonna have to learn how to tie a double fisherman's knot, or at least, you know, show this video. So now that I have the new string back in, I'm going to hold it back here and replace it. When I put it back into the housing, I'm gonna have to make sure that just like the inside clock spring, this notch has to line up with this notch here inside of the spool clock spring housing. If you can't see the notch because the spring is moved away, you can poke around until the notch is visible again. Make sure to replace the washer there that came off. And put it back. That's probably just gonna be one big cut. Alright, now that I have it down, I can make sure that it seats properly, that it's seated down onto that notch by the fact that I can see a notch here and a notch there. If it's not seated properly, which I will demonstrate here, if it's not seated properly, you will not be able to see the two notches here. You'll only be able to see the top of the thing. So, yeah. See both, so I'm good. Washer's in the right place. This guy's splined into the right place. Cool. Alright, now I'm going to replace the washer, followed by the E-clip. There is a slight bevel to the E-clip on one side where it's designed to be able to have something pry underneath it. This one has a marking on there, so it's not completely clear, but when you look up close, you'll see it. I want that to be on the bottom, that bevel. That way, when I want to pry underneath the E-clip later, there will be a little bit of purchase there because of the gap that's created. Push that back on. Now here's that clutch pawl. Again, I'm going to feel which side is easier. This one's difficult, so I'm going to put it over here onto the easy one where it slides easily. When I put the spring clip back on, sometimes people call this the boot clip because it's shaped like a boot. The toe is going to be towards the right if it's a boot. The other way you can remember is when this moves down, the E-clip is going to have to turn and the toe is going to be where the peg on the pawl moves to. So to get it back on, I'm just going to slide it over like so. And you can tell that it's in the right place because when you move it down, the peg moves down into the toe of the boot. And when I turn it back, it goes up into the heel. All right, sweet. Now I'm going to pre-tension the spring. And so to do that, I'm going to first tie the handle on. I'm going to leave some rope, some cord on the inside of the housing before I tie the knot, before I pull it all the way through. That way I'm going to have something to grab when I'm going to pre-tension it later. This is when I'm going to tie another double fisherman's knot, which I will reference in the voiceover. Eric, do you think the trainers are going to learn how to tie a special knot so that the handles don't get pulled through?
I think so.
It's a good knot.
Yeah.
It's worth knowing.
Yeah.
Right. Tie it. I'm just going to go 1, 2, and then through. Like that. This will make a big fat knot. And I'm probably going to take a more in-depth video later. Right now, I'm pulling the slack through from the bottom. That way I can have a short tail at the top. This is the same knot you're going to want to tie at the bottom and the top. Both the knot that retains it in the spool and the knot that retains it in the handle. Now it's a big knot. It's not going to come through. Almost any other knot will eventually get pulled through the handle on many of the models of brush cutters we have. Now that I have the knot tied in the handle, I left some string back here so that I could pull it through, and I'm going to pre-tension this. The brush cutters, you turn it 7 times to the left, and on the hedge trimmers, it's 7 turns, but it's going to be to the right. So since this is a brush cutter, I'm going to turn it 7 times to the left. 1, 2, 3. There's a notch cut on most of the spools. There's not one on this. 4. 5, 6, and 7. Now that I've pre-tensioned it, I can let go of the handle because I'm holding it here, and I can pull the cord through the loop, through the hole here. If it tries to twist up on you, just untwist it and try to pull the twist through. Now that I'm holding it here, I'm going to pull it out to make sure it's under tension, and then I can reel it back in. Just like that, you've replaced the pull cord.